Most people think sleep is safe, but for many, the moment they wake up unable to move becomes the start of something terrifying. They feel a heavy weight pressing down on their chest, the air turns colder. And before they can even process what's happening, they realize they're not alone in the room. A woman from Ohio woke up one night completely paralyzed. She couldn't lift a finger, couldn't cry out, couldn't even breathe properly. She sensed something at the end of her bed. In her peripheral vision, she saw a tall shadow slowly rising from the floor as if it had been crawling under her mattress. Its arms were unnaturally long, reaching all the way to the foot of the bed. The mattress dipped as the figure climbed onto it, inch by inch, silently, like it weighed nothing and everything at the same time. She felt its breath on her face, warm yet the room was freezing. It leaned close to her ear and whispered in a broken voice, "I've waited for you to wake up." When she finally broke free from paralysis, the figure vanished in an instant, but the imprint on the bed remained like something invisible was still sitting there watching her. A man from Brazil described waking up to whispers above him. Not language, just rapid clicking and low growls. When his eyes adjusted, he saw something crawling across his ceiling with limbs bending the wrong way. Its dimly glowing eyes locked onto him. It crawled until it was directly above him and then dropped onto his chest, knocking the air out of his lungs. Its jaw unhinged wider than humanly possible, and it inhaled like it was trying to pull the life out of him. When paralysis finally broke, the creature shot back into the darkness, leaving deep marks on his chest that lasted for days. A college student from Malaysia woke up frozen while hearing footsteps circling her bed. Something tugged her blanket off slowly. Then she felt a finger tapping her forehead repeatedly. She couldn't even cry out. A voice whispered right beside her face, "Why do you pretend to be asleep?" The voice was so close she felt vibrations inside her skull. When she broke free, her room was empty, but her chair had been moved several feet. She lived alone. A man from Australia said the same entity tormented him for months. At first, he only heard scratching behind his bed. Then he started waking paralyzed with fingers sliding across his throat. Later, he began seeing a crouched shadow figure in the corner every night. His final encounter was the worst. He woke up with a pale figure straddling him, its skin thin and stretched tight over its bones. Its face hovered over his, smiling with a grin that tore wider and wider. Then it spoke in his own voice saying, "Stop fighting. It only makes me stronger." When he regained control and screamed, the thing vanished. He moved houses immediately, and the encounter stopped. A nurse experienced paralysis after a long night shift. The room was dim with morning light, but the air felt heavy and humid. She heard a buzzing like insects swarming near her ears. A tall, thin silhouette appeared at the foot of her bed. As her eyes adjusted, she saw multiple overlapping faces behind it. Whispering in layers, voices cutting into her mind like hundreds of murmurs stacked on top of one another. When paralysis broke, the buzzing sound lingered in the room as if something hadn't fully left. A teenage boy woke to the feeling of someone sitting on his chest. He saw a creature crouched on him like an animal. Its spine protruded in jagged ridges, and thick black drool dripped from its mouth onto his shirt. It watched him silently, head tilting like it was studying him. When he mentally begged for it to stop, the creature vanished in an instant, leaving him gasping. A woman from Canada woke paralyzed to her name being whispered over and over again. A cold hand brushed her hair from her face slowly, almost gently, as if something wanted a clearer look at her expression. When she escaped paralysis and ran from the room, she returned later to find her pillow still warm on one side. As if something had been lying there beside her, breathing softly into her ear. But some encounters go beyond the bedroom. One man from Turkey said he experienced paralysis during an afternoon nap, broad daylight. He couldn't move, couldn't blink, just stare toward his open doorway. He saw a black silhouette standing there, as still as a statue. But slowly its head began to rise, not upward, but backward, bending far beyond any human angle. It made no sound, but he heard something echo inside his head, a deep metallic voice saying, "You're awake too early." The figure lifted one hand, its fingers stretching longer and longer until they scraped the floor. It began dragging those fingers toward his bed, slow enough that all he could do was watch the distance close. When he finally snapped out of paralysis, the hallway was empty, but scratch marks remained on the wooden floor leading directly to his room. Another man from India reported a horrifying encounter where he woke unable to move and found himself staring at his bedroom wall. A shadow on the wall started changing shape, twisting like smoke. It formed a head, then shoulders, then a long arm that stretched toward him even though nothing physical was there in the room. The shadow hand stopped inches from his face, trembling violently like it was trying to break through the surface of the wall. He could hear breathing coming from inside the shadow, raspy, uneven, hungry. When he finally broke free, the shadow snapped back instantly, but the wall stayed ice cold for hours as if something had been pressed against it. Across the world, different people describe the same figures, long-limbed shadows crawling across ceilings. Pale beings sitting on their chest, hands brushing their face, voices calling their names. If these are hallucinations, why do thousands of people see the same exact creatures? Many believe sleep paralysis doesn't create the demons, it just reveals them. A moment where your mind wakes up before your body does, exposing the things that normally stay hidden in the darkest corners of your room, watching you from just inches away. And if that's true, then the next time you wake up unable to move, unable to scream, feeling something standing beside your bed, you're not imagining it. You're finally seeing what has always been there. And if you want more real, terrifying encounters and stories darker than anything you've heard tonight, make sure to subscribe, because the deeper we go, the more it starts to feel like something is watching us while we sleep. Waiting for the moment we can't move, can't breathe, and can't open our eyes fast enough.